Then I took another attempt at a tactic creation for Galatasaray, but this time to actually create a tactic that is suited to the current Galatasaray team, the current group of players that they have in the squad. And the tactic that I created actually helped us to beat Besiktas by 6-0 in the league game. So there has been a number of requests from the community for a tactic video that features Galatasaray. If I'm being honest with you, I've actually struggled to get this to work, but in order not to delay the project any longer and keep you guys waiting forever, I decided to share the video with you anyway and tell you the progress of my Galatasaray tactic testing phase. And we're going to look at all the 3 tactics that I've been working with in Turkey with Galatasaray, and then you be the judge for yourself and tell me which tactic is actually the best. Now, the first tactic that I went on to test with Galatasaray went on to do this particular set of numbers. They went on to win 26 games out of 36, so they shared the other games or the other draws and defeats as 5-5. So they lost 5, drew 5, and then they went on to rack up 83 points in the process. And then looking at the team stats that they went on to play, they did to some extent dominate the league with this tactic, and they had the most points per game with 2.31, most goals as well with 85, not the highest, but something unique stands out with this tactic. You're going to look at the average possession. Galatasaray are not in the top 8 for average possession, but they somehow managed to dominate the league with this tactic. Now, if you go into the data hub and look at the general performance for Galatasaray using this particular system, they had 2.36 goals per game and they were expected to score 1.77. So to some degree, they were actually over exceeding their expected goals ratio. Conceded 1.17, so that's really low. A little over 1 goal per game. Now, defensively, they were expected to concede 1.21, so I think that's a step up in the right direction using this tactic. Now, the system that got Galatasaray those set of results is what I'm going to like to call the Turkish delight. I found this on Reddit, so it's not exactly my tactic, but I did go on to recreate it on Football Manager 2023, so I'm going to take some credit for the results that we actually had with this system in Galatasaray. The super keeper for this tactic is on attack duty, and then there are 2 central defenders playing on, or there are 2 ball playing defenders playing on defend duty. They do not have any instructions attached to them. I don't think any player in this tactic goes on to have any instruction attached to them. They're wing backs on support duty, and then in the central defensive midfield position, I do like this role for this player, deep line playmaker on defend duty. So nobody in the tactic is actually expected to do any much defending. The tactic is pretty much hands-on going on to try and score as many goals as possible. That's probably why they conceded so many. And then you have an inverted winger on attack duty on the right hand side, you have an inverted winger on support duty on the left hand side, and in between you have 2 number 10s. You have a shadow striker on attack, and then you have an advanced playmaker feeding the balls to the shadow striker and to the pressing forward that is playing on attack. Now, while Galatasaray are doing their best to score as many goals as possible, they're kind of cautious of how the opposition is going to counter-attack them, hence the positive mentality. You can see here in the out of possession instructions that the team is expected to try and win possession and stop the counter-attack at source before the opposition even attempts having a counter-attack. And then when they're in possession, they're going to go on to play with a slightly more direct passing and an extremely high tempo. Normally, I would not create a tactic like this. I probably would never go on to do this, but to some degree, it actually goes on to work on Football Manager, which is strange, really. There's a hit early crosses instruction, and then the team is expected to play with an extremely wide width. So I went on to tweak the Turkish delight tactic to see if we could actually get a better performance from Galatasaray using the system that I altered. And funny enough, we're currently in 4th place. I did go on to end the season as at match day 28, so they could go on and see how it goes, but so far so good. We're not in 1st place, so the tactic or my tactic tweak didn't really turn out as I wanted it to be. But let's look at the competition stats and see how that actually went on. Fenerbahce has the most points per game with 2.33, and Galatasaray are in there with 2.07. That's slightly more than 1 point per game. But if you look at the possession, Galatasaray actually averaged 60% possession using the tactical tweaks that I went on to make. They had the most goals in the league, or they currently have the most goals in the league with 69, and the fewest conceded. They're still not in any of the top positions, so they're still conceding a lot more than 37 goals. So it means that my tactic tweak went on to fail completely, but I don't know if it's worse than the last one, so you'll be the one to decide. And looking at the tactical tweaks that I made to the Turkish delight, I called it the Turkish second delight, and in the place of a pressing forward on attack, I opted for a deep lying forward on attack. The shadow striker and the advanced playmaker, I did keep those roles, and instead of the inverted winger here on support DT, I opted for a traditional winger on support, and then I had the inverted wing back come into the fullback role here, and instead of the DLP, I opted for a roaming playmaker on support. So to some degree, that didn't really work out in our favor. The tactical instruction for team instruction, I don't think I altered it too much. I did reduce the width by 1 to fairly wide, and then the passing directness to slightly shorter instead of the more direct kind of passing. Is probably why we went on to rack up that much possession, even though we didn't do much with it. This third tactic was actually the most challenging because it's a tactical recreation of the 1999-2000 Galatasaray team that actually went on to win the UEFA Cup. That's what we now know as the Europa League. The team was led by the legendary Hadji. Now, I actually ended the test in match day 7. We've only lost twice in the league, but I'm not really embracing how successful the tactic is going to be on Football Manager, because football has actually changed a whole lot since 1999, and the roles that I went on to select probably didn't work as much or as effective as I wanted them to work. But altogether, it was interesting trying to learn Turkish and translate most of those tactical philosophies into the game. And if you look at the team stats, how we went on to defend, Abacha do have the most goals. We aren't scoring that many goals with this tactic. We only managed 9 in the league, but somehow we're in 4th place. I don't know how that's possible. We do have 2.14 points per game, so we're in 3rd. It could improve much later, but I really wanted to zoom past because it was getting really frustrating watching our team play the way we were playing. It was supposed to be expansive, but it didn't really turn out that way. And this is the tactic that we went on to use. It's a 4-3-1-2 system, and then you have a deep lying forward on attack duty. The Hadji role is usually the attacking midfielder here on attack duty, and he has been asked to take more risk and to roam from position, essentially controlling the game from the number 10 role. But from Football Manager 2023, this role could easily be marked out and isolated. We don't really have much support on the flanks, and having to use the 2 playmakers in the central midfield, that's the deep line playmaker and the advanced playmaker on support, it's really difficult to get any runners from deeper positions, and it's kind of tight in midfield, so we're kind of like a separate block from the midfield, the attack, and then the defense as well. A good link up with the false 9 on support DT and the attacking midfielder, but altogether it's a very difficult tactic to execute. And you can look at the team instructions. We do have a very high press selected, although the players are kind of struggling to do that because there's nobody pressing the fullback, so your strikers are kind of stretched out wide. And the positive mentality is selected for this system as well. As you can see, I called it the Galatasaray 1999-2000 system, a very difficult one, and I do have to put a little bit more work into this tactic, actually see if it's possible to replicate this system and get it to work in the modern game. Then I took another attempt at a tactic creation for Galatasaray, but this time to actually create a tactic that is suited to the current Galatasaray team, the current group of players that they have in the squad. And the tactic that I created actually helped us to beat Besiktas by 6-0 in the league game. This wasn't the most difficult tactic to create, as it was similar to the process that I normally use to create tactics, to try to analyze the whole squad, look at what the team is good at, look at what everybody in the squad is capable of doing and what they can't do, if they can press or if they can't press. Try to use that knowledge of what they have in the squad and then try to create a tactic based on that. And looking at the league table, we do have a goal difference of 28. We've only played 11 games in the season, so having 28 or plus 28 as goal difference is quite good. It's quite alarming, really. And if you look at the competition stats, we're in the semi-final. Okay, this is a friendly club, let's not look at that. And then we're currently in the 4th round of the Turkish Cup, but then we've drawn no games, we've lost twice only, and then we've won 9 games out of 11. And then looking at the team stats, Galatasaray do have 2.45 points per game. That's probably more points that we did have in all the other tactic tests. We currently have the most goals and then the fewest shots again, so it means defensively we're quite solid with this tactic. Most possession, well, I don't think we're really in there. Okay, we're in 4th place with 56% possession, and then the fewest conceded as well. We're in there with only 9 goals conceded. Well, in 11 games, it feels like a lot really, but it's interesting to see how that goes on towards the end of the season. I picked the 4-2-3-1 because it feels like the Galatasaray squad has a group of players that plays in key positions using this tactic. Like Dries Mertens is naturally expected to play as a number 10 in this role, and then I have Icardi that can play as a deep lying forward on support DT. And then for the back 4, I opted for 1 ball playing defender and 1 central defender, with a wing back on attack duty on the left hand side and then a wing back on support duty on the right hand side. Ahead of them, I do have an inverted winger on support playing ahead of the wing back on attack, and then an inverted winger on attack playing ahead of the wing back on support. For the goalkeeper, Muslera is a very good goalkeeper, and then I opted for a sweeper keeper on defense. It's similar to a standard goalkeeper on defense because eccentricity for Muslera is below 10, so I don't really like going for any other adventurous roles if the goalkeeper has eccentricity below 10, so I opted for a sweeper keeper on defend. Now with regards to team instructions, this is what we went for, an attacking mentality, because the team's club vision does recommend that we use an attacking mentality to try and score as many goals as possible. And then you can see that in possession we opted for standard in most of the instructions, no width attached standard passing directness, standard tempo, but then we do have play out of defense and then pass into space instructions selected to try and increase that urgency. And then you have walk the ball to the box instruction. And of course, Galatasaray being one of the top teams in Turkey, I did go on to ask the team to be more expressive when creating chances. And then when the goalkeeper is in possession of the ball, he's expected to throw the ball long, while the team is still expected to counter press and to counter, because we don't really have much of the pace in defense to actually get back and close down counter attack. So it's important that we actually try to win the ball back early. And then you can see we do have a high press and a high defensive line, and the trigger press is selected as more often in this case. So there you go. Instead of testing out one tactic with Galatasaray, we did go on to test out 4. Some of them did work out, some of them worked out not so well, but that's okay. If you do have any comments about the tactics that we tested or any of the tactics in this video, you can let me know in the comment section. And if you're a Galatasaray fan, you can let me know in the comment section how you see my tactic, the 4-2-3-1 that I created for the current group of players that are in Galatasaray. You can let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are. Again, thank you guys for watching this video and supporting the channel. I do enjoy the support you guys bring. I'll see you with more Football Manager tactic videos like this. Stay safe. I'll see you soon.